Well, I think this tweet sums it up. Marlies, unbeatable for like 2 months. Steve Dangle shows up. They lose. This is my life. This is what I've always known. This is my nightmare! Marley Minute. Why am I the worst? Marley Minute. I didn't like that intro as much as the last one. The Toronto Marlies lose 2-1 in Game 2 to the Texas Stars, so now the Calder Cup final is tied at 1 apiece. But hey, at least the Marlies had a great first period. They had a very good first period. Or so the radio told me because I was stuck in traffic and missed the whole thing. So, yesterday, if you saw my videos, you know that I made a Marlies video for Game 1, and then it was rushing, and so I could do the Cup Check video for the Stanley Cup final, and I rushed to get that done so I could leave the house so I can go see Game 2 of the Calder Cup final. And I leave Oshawa at about 3:15. That gives me enough time to, I'm probably gonna be there a few minutes late, but just a few. If I get lucky and they do some kind of crazy ceremony, I might just be there on time. Bumper to bumper traffic starts in Oshawa. And I go, oh no, I forgot it's Sunday. People are coming home from their cottage. And then it's so bad, I'm like, oh, I can't get too mad because there must be an accident. I get all the way to 2 towns over in Ajax and discover the problem is 2 cars safely pulled over in the shoulder. And after that, everyone's just, So if you were rubbernecking that, congrats, you're the real hero. You helped. I mean, what would those poor people have done had you not looked at them? If you were behind the steering wheel of a motor vehicle, drive your car! Gas, brakes, steering. Those are the basics. They should have told you the rest when you got your license! Steve, maybe you should move to Toronto. Maybe you should give me $1 million! And then I get there and the main road to the parking is closed! And then I finally get in the building after the first period is done, by the way. I've been listening to the game the whole time in between my own screaming. And people are telling me that the train was shut down too. How was this game sold out? One thing about Toronto hockey fans, man, when I got there, the building was full. So you all got there somehow. So what I heard in the car for the first period was confirmed to me by the highlights. The Marlies did do very well. I think the shots were 13-7 in their favor. At least that's what it was when I finally sat down. Ben Smith got the only goal. I went and looked at the highlights to see if it was as nice as it sounded, and it was. Travis Dermott just taking the dog for a walk along the blue line, fires it on, Ben Smith tip, beautiful. Marlies up 1-0 after 1. So that's good. Much better start after a poor one in Game 1. Garrett Sparks looks much better in the Marlies net. Mike McKenna, despite the goal against, looks better in the Stars net. This game was the goalies as advertised, which ended up being the problem. Early in the second period now, Dylan Hetherington with the puck in the Stars zone. Yeah, that's harmless. Until you realize, no! Hetherington just throws a long distance pass up the ice. Curtis McKenzie is standing like a foot behind Travis Dermott. The puck hits his stick. He takes off. Breakaway on Garrett Sparks. Scores. Tied game 1-1. Sportsnet's Daniel Nugent-Brown did a great write-up on the game. I'll put it down below, but the crux of the whole thing was Travis Dermott talking about this goal. Basically, which is he had crouched down and actually grabbed the pass with his hand, which easier said than done. From that distance, the pass was basically a shot. Now, a few things happened one after the other There was that goal, which obviously swung momentum. Freddie Gauthier takes a penalty just over 5 minutes into the period. That swung momentum, but that was a smelly, stinky, I don't think so call. Less than 30 seconds into the thing, Colin Greening takes a holding penalty. And yeah, there was more of a hold than Goats, I thought, but now they're down 2 because you got it wrong in the first one. The Marlies take a timeout mid-penalty kill because Gauthier and Greening are both penalty killers. And for the rest of the second period, it's like they were trudging through mud. They never quite got that momentum back. All those shots that they had in the first. But someone who I did recognize every single shift in the second, every single shift in the third was Trevor Moore. And he's just a water bug. He's flying around out there. That line of Trevor Moore, Adam Brooks, and Mason Marchment has been great, but while they're starting to build momentum, they have the puck. Mason Marchment takes a slashing call while the Marlies have possession. It was a bad period of hockey. I mean, probably not the worst, but they're the Toronto Marlies. They've set such a high standard that if they get eliminated, if they lose in the Calder Cup final, it's going to be a disappointment. It's going to be an upset. Let's see if they pick up their socks in the third. Early in the third, again, the ref's hand goes up and we go, really? Just over 3 minutes in, Vincent Loverde takes a holding the stick penalty. I just don't know. In the third period of a tied final game, I don't know. And what the Stars did was a thing of beauty. On the power play, they got the Marlies to basically line up in a perfect line in front of Sparks. Then once they were there, they got them to spread out nice and wide. Gave it to Gavin Bayreuther at the point now with an open lane. Blam! What a shot, what a rocket. Beats Garrett Sparks. And now the Stars are up 2-1. Off a power play goal again. The Stars had a good power play in game 1. they had a good power play in game 2, and it was the difference in game 2. Once again, the easiest way to stop their power play is to take fewer penalties. 2 of the penalties were certainly legit. 2 of them, one that put them down 5-on-3, the other that led to the game-winning goal, I'm not sure. So, be disciplined. I think that's a given, but the Marlies have got to tighten up that penalty kill, because the Stars are bringing it. Especially that backhand, man. Second straight game, they've done the long pass for the breakaway. They got banger shots from the point. They're dangerous. While the Marlies started pinching more and trying to get the tie game, Garrett Sparks did his end. He was making save after save. He was actually very good in this one. It's a shame. But the Marlies just couldn't pull off the tying goal. Mike McKenna with a huge bounce back from game 1, and the Stars tie the series. Now I gotta say, some players had disappointing performances. Colin Greening, that penalty wasn't very good. Mason Marchment, that penalty was terrible. Travis Dermott wasn't awful, but the thing I'm concerned with about him, offensively, he's toying with that league. It's a joke. In his own end, he just doesn't look dominant enough. He doesn't look dominant at all, really. He's gotta lock it down if he's gonna be a success in the NHL next season. But last game, I talked about Andreas Johnsson. No, that whole top line of Johnsson, Aaltonen, and Grundstrom, I barely noticed them in this game. And when you're watching on TV, it's a little different. When you're in person, you can really separate the good players from the great players. Johnsson, Aaltonen, and Grundstrom weren't even good. That's supposed to be the Marlies' best line. That's supposed to be the most dominant line in this league. And they just haven't been. I'm wondering if someone's hurt. And woe be to those guys who had to deal with Sheldon Keefe after this one. Quick questions. Thoughts on my boy Timmy Liljegren? His progression this year, and how long till he comes up with the Leafs. Well, once again, what I'm looking for with guys in the American League is dominance, and I haven't seen that from Liljegren, but I gotta say, as a teenage defenseman in the American Hockey League, I expected him to be a liability, and he just hasn't been that. He's been just kind of unnoticeable, which, that's not even really true. I noticed him offensively. He wasn't overly noticeable on his own end, which I think is great. Now, granted, I haven't seen as much of him as others have, but he's been good in everything I've seen. Steady and responsible. In terms of how long till he comes with the Leafs, ideally the Leafs find someone solid enough that they don't need Liljegren next year, but he might get the Dermott treatment, which could work out well because he's paired with Dermott right now. I think a full season in the American League would do some good, but we'll see. The Sparks look like he has NHL talent. My friend, I don't know if you're asking the right question. I think Sparks absolutely has NHL talent. The athleticism, the speed, the flexibility. But too often it just seems like he's hanging on by his teeth. But what Freddie Anderson does, and I'm not necessarily comparing them as goalies, but when Freddie is bad, he's all over the place and he's scrambly. Sparks can get scrambly. Now, Freddie always locks it down. If they give Sparks the proper coaching, can he do that at the NHL level? Look, with the numbers he's had in the AHL, he deserves an NHL shot. If not with the Leafs, then somewhere else. So does he have NHL talent? We can only tell with goalies, really, when they're in the NHL. Last but not least, should you be banned from Ricoh Coliseum? Yes, I somehow made the Marlies lose. The Marlies. I'm terrible. But at least before I got banned, I got this. Man, dude, they have authentic... Grab this here, dust this off. Anyway, so they got Adidas, they got the Arenas jerseys, Matthews on the back, named and everything. $80! They're on clearance. They got a bunch of those navy white ones too. With the blue ones, I only saw Matthews, but I heard something about Marlowe. Someone was saying something about Marlowe. It was only $80. I don't even feel bad that I dropped it. I'm sorry, Austin. So that is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you liked this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. Tell all your friends. It looks like winning the Calder Cup, winning a championship, isn't going to be easy after all.